Today I share with you video 1 of a series of upcoming videos on why I use audiograms and everything that goes into creating an audiogram, all the way from the conception all the way to the publish. So stick around, I got some more details for you coming up next. Hey there, podcaster. My name is the Shannon, radio broadcaster, podcaster, and podcast producer. And today's video is brought to you by headliner.app. Headliner is actually the application that I am using to create all of my audiograms to promote my own podcast. If you haven't had a chance to check out Headliner, make sure that you head on over to their website at headliner.app, or I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description of this YouTube video. Also, you can check out their YouTube channel so that you can go over there and subscribe with them as well. So the reason why I'm creating this video series starting today is because I realize I have a video up about audiograms, but I really don't go into the tutorials of how I create my own particular audiograms, especially when it comes down to the conception of getting an audiogram from me editing the podcast all the way to the image that I'm going to use all the way to the publish, and why I use these methods. All right. So before we jump into anything, I think it's important that we go and start from the very beginning and understanding the social platforms and why we're using particular social platforms and what an audiogram looks like. All right. So let's start with that first. So what is an audiogram? So really an audiogram, if I were to sum it up, really is a static or a still image, but that's actually a video that is played inside of a social platform like Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Could be even done something in Snapchat or even Instagram stories. And really what it is it's a still image that has audio that is embedded underneath. And with that audio, it has captions. And like you've probably seen in Facebook and all the other social platforms, you've seen these before whenever it comes to certain memes. And of course, if we jump over to the computer right now, here's a particular audiogram that I had gone ahead and I had created for my own particular podcast. Now, if I were to go ahead and play this, you can see that I created this audiogram. And there's little bars that are jumping up and down with the audio. And so audiograms really make the viewer who's in a social platform curious as to what is being played. Even though there may be captions that are running right there, they may still want to hear what is going on. And especially when it comes down to your podcast interviews, or maybe there's a rant that you went on and you want to share out that particular rant to a social platform, you would definitely make an audiogram so you can give someone a taste of your particular podcast, so you can promote it and drive them to your podcast wherever they can listen to your podcast. All right. So let's talk first about the social platforms and why we use audiograms. All right. So now, first point is that we use audiograms to give an unfamiliar or non-subscriber a taste of what your podcast is. And I just mentioned this a few seconds ago, right? So we're trying to give the person who is in Instagram a taste of what your podcast may be about. They may have never been exposed to your podcast. There's people all over the world that are constantly looking for podcasts, because podcasts are typically released on a weekly basis, and we can run out of podcasts really fast. So what people do is they tend to go to these social platforms and they look for specific topics based around their interest. All right. And maybe your podcast is one of those topics of interest that someone might stumble upon, and you want to use an audiogram in order to do that, but you want to use it strategically. All right. So we're using audiograms to give an unfamiliar or non-subscriber a taste of what your podcast is all about. Okay. But point number 2, though, we also use audiograms to shine the light for current subscribers to my podcast or to a podcast. Maybe there's someone who is already invested in your podcast. Well, if they are invested in your podcast, maybe, or more likely, you've given them the handles where you hang out. Typically, like say you hang out on Instagram, you hang out on Facebook, you hang out on Twitter, you hang out on Snapchat, and they are already connecting with you on those particular channels to see what it's all about. And within those channels, you can remind people that, hey, I've got a brand new podcast, by creating an audiogram that will promote your podcast, and ask them to share that audiogram out so that you can get more eyes and ears on your particular clip and podcast. All right. Now, how do we decide which social network that we need to use? All right. I know there are going to be people who are just starting a podcast out for the very first time, and they're starting a whole brand new network. They're starting a brand new Instagram account. They're starting a brand new Twitter account, and it just goes on and on. How do we determine which is going to be the best platform for you? Now, that's really going to be up to you. You have to decide where people are going to be searching for this stuff the most. All right. The hard part about podcasting is that there's no real, I guess, super discovery engine other than Twitter and Instagram. Now, you can use Facebook, but it requires a lot of work. Facebook requires a lot of work for you to get your post out there and in front of the eyes of other people to check out that audiogram. All right. So the networks that I typically use to promote my podcast, because I've already built an audience over on Facebook, the platforms that I'm trying to promote to that will gather some organic discovery. So from, organic and I guess you could say unique discovery. Unique meaning they're discovering me for the very first time. I would use Instagram and I would use Twitter. These are the two platforms that I like to use to get new people to come in and start listening to my podcast. All right. So let's start with Twitter and let's talk about some tips that you can use for Twitter. All right. Now, when I talk about using Twitter, I'm not just talking about blasting people with, hey, I got a brand new podcast. This is what it is. Go listen to it, and posting an audiogram to it. This is not what it is. What I typically like to do with my audiograms is I'd like to pull a quote from the particular podcast, typically from the guest. And I use that quote as a means to create a post. And then within that post, I will attach an audiogram, and then that audiogram has the full clip itself. All right. So that's what I'll do. I'll push it out to Twitter that way. But whenever I push out an update to Twitter, I'm also appending or adding on hashtags. Hashtags are a very important tool that you can use within Twitter itself. You wouldn't believe the searches and the discovery that goes on when you're using actual hashtags inside of your Twitter posts. So if you're not familiar with what a hashtag is, hashtag is basically, is of course the little pound sign, you know that, but the hashtags, what they do inside of Twitter is like it's indexing that particular hashtag term, and it's like it's filing it away in Twitter to where it can be discovered at any time. If you've ever watched the news or you've ever watched late night TV shows, and they'll go back and they'll find someone's post based off of a particular hashtag that was like years ago. And these are all based on hashtags. Hashtags index that particular post. And it also allows people to discover you for the very first time. That's how these late night show hosts and news people all find these tweets. So hashtags are very useful if you're looking to get discovered. Now, when you jump into a platform like Twitter, it's best that you do your research for the very first time. And what is very helpful for me is that knowing my type of podcast, I know the nature of what it's all about. It's rock band interviews. It's a podcast. So there's two hashtags that I can automatically think of. So I would probably write down podcasting, rock music interviews, but then I would probably want to go in and do some research on Twitter to see which hashtags would be best for people to discover. You can go into Twitter and find a list of hashtags that aren't very popular, and I'll show you that here in a second, but you can also find a list of hashtags that are popular, that or have some traction, that allow people to go in and discover posts inside of Twitter. So let's take a look at that real quick and jump into Twitter, and let me show you what it looks like. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a super expert on hashtags. There are plenty of other people out there that know how to use hashtags like crazy good. I don't try to game the system, but I try to create hashtags that center around that particular clip or that particular post. All right. So that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to game any type of system. All right. So we're going to jump over to Twitter here. And if you were jumping to Twitter, you would jump in and you would be taken to the home page right here. All right. And what I focus on whenever it comes down to looking for hashtags. Let's say we're talking about a post that has to deal with rock music interviews, and let's say it's with the band Metallica. All right. So what I want to go ahead and I want to brainstorm some hashtags that I will attach to some of these posts that I will be creating. And it's based off of an interview, say, that I did with someone from Metallica, all right? So I know the first hashtag would probably be, for me, because I'm a radio DJ, I would call it like radio life. That would be one hashtag. Another hashtag would be podcast. A third hashtag would be podcasting. I would recommend that you always use podcast and podcasting for your particular audiograms, because it will get the eyes on top of your audiogram, and people will realize that it is part of a podcast. But come up with some hashtags. All right. Now, since we're talking about Metallica, I don't want to choose the band Metallica itself as a hashtag. I'm sure it gets a lot of traction. I mean, we can look at that, but what you can do is you can do a hashtag search for heavy metal music. So let's just say heavy metal, and you see that the search comes up right there, heavy metal. And when you go into this hashtag indexing right here, you're going to see all of the posts that have the hashtag heavy metal. All right. You'll see all the people who follow the hashtag heavy metal. It just goes on and on. And of course, you can see here, there's a tweet right here that has hashtag heavy metal. It was made yesterday on December 1st. And then, of course, you can find all the other posts that just go down all the way. All right. Now, you can see the top posts, or you can see the latest posts. All right. So I typically go to the latest posts just to kind of see what's going on. And you see what the latest posts are. Here's one that was posted 2 minutes ago in some language. I don't know what language that is, but you can see maybe it's like Japanese or Chinese. It's probably Japanese, and you can see that there's posts already going on inside of here, but the hashtag itself, heavy metal, is listed right there. And this is the way people discover brand new content when it comes through their Twitter feed. All right, so you would want to see if this is a popular hashtag and if it would be useful for people. So I would probably pick heavy metal, and then of course if I went in and I would write these down, I would go in and let's say there's the guitarist of Metallica. His name is Kirk Hammett. I think it's with 2 T's. Let's go right there. And then you could see all the posts that are the latest posts with Kirk Hammett. And of course, there's all these fan sites that have the hashtag Kirk Hammett. So you see Kirk Hammett here. You see another one right here. Kirk Hammett. So it just goes on and on. So find relevant hashtags that will apply to your audiogram. If you are interviewing, say, someone like Kirk Hammett, it would be more likely for you to put that hashtag in there and maybe even actually tag him inside of Twitter. There's no wrong way of doing that. So I would say just go ahead and do that. Now, when it comes down to Instagram, it's very, very similar to Twitter. However, Instagram, I'm not an expert, like I said, when it comes down to the, the rule and the law of hashtags. All I know is what I use works, all right? And that's what gets attention to my particular post whenever I post an audiogram. So when it comes down to Instagram, what you're going to want to do, and I'm kind of doing this one off of memory, and then you're going to see a screenshot here of me doing it, but I'm going to do it all kind of off of memory, all right? And what you're going to want to do inside of Instagram is you're going to want to search for hashtags that are popular within Instagram, but not crazy popular. And I'm not talking about going into Instagram and looking for a hashtag that is, say, like nutrition, and it's got probably a million images that are indexed within that particular hashtag. What I'm looking for are hashtags are probably within the 100,000s, maybe 50,000s, because what that means is that there are images that people are posting inside of those particular hashtags that are of a lower number, and people are still going and they're visiting them. As an example, and the reason why I know this works, and it has changed a little bit, but as an example, a few years back, I did a photo challenge on Instagram, and I used these hashtags in particular orders, okay, not in a particular order, but I used them in order to get more eyes on images that I was creating, and I started getting more fans who were liking my content. So that's going to be the key here, okay? The key is going to be the hashtag that you discover inside of Instagram. Now, when you jump into Instagram, how you find this and how you do research on this is that you go to the Explore magnifying glass on the bottom part of your phone, and then once you go to the bottom part, you're going to be taken to a series of images right there, and then you see the search bar at the very top. From there, you tap on there, and then of course you jump over to tags. And when you jump over to tags, you're going to see you're going to want to type in, say, Kirk Hammett himself. And then once you type in Kirk Hammett, then you should be able to see all the images that are listed under Kirk Hammett. Now, this just doesn't mean that you're indexing it and you're just placing it up there. This means that people are going in and they are clicking on those hashtags so that they can see what type of images are inside there. So find hashtags that will work really well for getting eyes on your content. Now, how many hashtags should you use inside of Instagram? Well, there is rumor on this, and I don't know. What I would recommend that you do is you check out my friend Jen Herman. I'll leave her Instagram on the in the description down below, but I recommend that you follow her. She's a really good, she knows how to use Instagram really well. She's actually a part of Instagram for Dummies book, I think, and she does so much more. So check out Jen Herman. She has a lot of information on how to use Instagram. But when it comes down to hashtags, I personally only use maybe about 10 to 12 hashtags before it gets a little full. All right, I always add in a caption, which typically is, hey, this is what happened on this particular day when I interviewed this guest, and it was really windy that day, but it was a fun interview. Give a listen to that, and then I put hashtags after that description, and that will then index it inside of Instagram. So this is a way you can get traction to your audiograms whenever you decide that you're going to build them out. So now that we've got an idea and a basis of how and why we are creating hashtags and researching hashtags for our audiograms, we're going to have a baseline of hashtags that we will use for each and every one of our audiograms if it's for our podcast. All right. So what I recommend that you do is you go in and you start researching your hashtags inside of Twitter and Instagram. Now, do hashtags work inside of Facebook? They do work, but they don't have very much weight inside of Facebook. It's just not something that they, really, it's not that they don't care, but they don't put a high priority on hashtags inside of Facebook. So it's something that you're going to have to play with. Mainly with Instagram. You can do it in Facebook, but they just don't put a whole lot of weight onto that. All right. So why don't you tell me, what are the hashtags that you might be using for your own particular audiogram? I'd love to hear it, and leave a comment down below this video and let me know. And let me know if you have any troubles understanding the ideas of hashtags and why you even use hashtags. I'd be really interested to see what you have to say, or maybe even just a comment to help out other people who are getting into this audiogram game, and maybe even just posting images inside of Twitter and Instagram and trying to get discovered. Go ahead and leave some comments down below. That would really help out. If you like this video, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up, and of course hit that subscribe button while you're on YouTube, and hit the bell button so that you can get updated as to when I will be updating or dropping a brand new video for this series, so that you can learn more all about audiograms. Now, in the next video, what I'm going to be talking about, and actually what I'm going to be showing you, is my particular process of building out an audiogram, and it's all going to start with the audio first. Now that I've already got the ideas inside of my head of which hashtags I will be using, I'm probably going to pick some later hashtags down the line, but I will show you the process of how I start picking the right piece of audio so that I can create a really great audiogram for people to consume. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week on the new video, and of course on the end screen when I do decide to update this video after I've started releasing more and more. You're going to see the next video on the end screen right over here, and we'll see you on over there. Thanks for watching.